Guys, UFC 254 is this weekend, and I've brought in Ryan to look at some of the fights. Ryan, how are you?
Doing great. Looking very much forward to this.
I know this is the card for you. I know you've been hyping this up forever, so I'm so excited that we get to watch this weekend.
I haven't been this excited about a card in a very long time. I know I seem like I say that every time around. It could just be for the lack of sports, but I think we're in store for some insane matchups here.
So guys, the first fight I want to take a look at is Alexander Volkov versus Walt Harris. You know, I remember watching, like we talked about, Walt Harris fight Overeem after the tragedy that struck his family, and I think everyone was rooting for Walt Harris, and he came out strong. It looked like he maybe was going to have a finish against Overeem, but he kind of seemed to gas himself out, and that tank was pretty much empty going forward, and Overeem was able to get the win. Now, as for Volkov, I missed his last fight, so I was hoping you could kind of fill me in on there.
Yeah, he did what he typically always does. He gets very, very active early in the hands. He loves to put out a lot of volume via the strike. Does not really care to go to the ground. If he does happen to get there, he does have the poison moxie enough to deliver with the ground and pound, which is what you'll typically see.
And he did lose, correct?
Correct. I'm sorry. He did lose to Curtis Blades.
Okay, so both those guys are coming off losses, but are very, very good fighters, and I think this is going to be a fun matchup. Do you have a prediction here?
Yes, as much as I would like to go with my guy Walt, again, my heart goes out to him and his family. I cannot imagine going through what they went through. Absolutely unbelievable. Like you said, he does tend to gas himself out. I think he does get a little emotional, especially early in when that adrenaline's really flowing. So I feel like he lets out a little bit more of the tank than he maybe wants to.
Yeah.
That being said, he does all 13 of his wins are via the KO. So he obviously does have the knockout power. But I do believe Volkov will come out victorious, either potentially getting a knockout in the third round. But I definitely could see this going the entire way and just having him win by decision.
There you go, guys. As we take a look at the co-main event, Ryan and I, right before we recorded this, talked about how the fact that this is a fight night. This is an incredible fight. The fact that we're getting this as a co-main event, it's a number one contender. I keep going back and forth. I don't know who's going to win this fight. How do you see it?
Well, first off, you have Cannonier. This will be his third weight division. Started off in the heavyweight, moved down to light heavyweight. Now is in the middleweight and arguably has looked better and better and better every step of the way. The man is absolutely shredded now, taking his diet and his cardio very seriously. You can tell that his heart is in it. I would say you would look for him to start early with the leg kicks, do a lot of damage that way to set up the absolute bombs that he can throw with his hands. Has not lost in the middleweight division, so he has a lot of things going for him there. On Robertson, former champ, dying to get that belt back, coming off a fresh win against Darren Till. So there's a lot of momentum there. He's an absolute top tier striker, mixes up his hands and his kicks very, very well. They mirror each other a lot, actually, the more I think about it. Difference being, I would say Robert potentially, granted, every single fighter in the UFC is a different animal compared to the normal human being. I will say Robert might be the toughest fighter I've ever seen in the UFC. Yeah. Dude just continues to go forward regardless of what damage he's taken. He's got a chin like I've never seen. Having said all of that, I'm going to go with Jared Cannonier on this one. I just feel like he's going to be, again, similar to Robert, but I feel like he's going to just deliver it just a little bit more damage. So if this does go the full distance, I feel like the judges are going to go Jared's way on this one.
There you go, guys. Israel Adesanya's already came out and said that if Cannonier wins, he's the next guy up, and you'd assume we would get a Whitaker rematch potentially if Whitaker is able to get the job done. I'm also super excited to see Whitaker fighting again so quickly because I'm still relatively new to the sport, but it seemed like Whitaker, there was always a big time off in between fights, but a quick turnaround after that Till fight.
Yeah, he's an absolute warrior, man. Absolute warrior. He's said multiple times all he wants to do is get his belt back. Do I see that ever really happening? Maybe not. But if anybody can do it, it's going to be Robert Whittaker.
And then, of course, there is the main event. I'm going to let Ryan take this one away.
Well, I appreciate that. We're going to start off with Justin. I'll do a side-by-side here.
Okay.
In my eyes, Justin Gaethje is like a real-life Rocky Balboa. He will just continue to move forward and move forward and move forward. Is not afraid to eat a punch, to deliver a bigger punch. He's got a very strong chin and believes in himself wholeheartedly. I would say his biggest weakness, though, is going to be his gas tank. That is typically the only time you ever really see a chink in his armor. He's very explosive, very active, but the moment Justin gets tired, even the casual fan can honestly see it pretty easily. On Khabib's end, he stated that though Justin is an All-American wrestler, he doesn't really translate that in his UFC game as much, so he does feel that his wrestling game is on a completely different level than Gaethje's, which I tend to agree with. His gas tank is honestly like nothing I've ever seen in any,
it's unbelievable.
Any sport, to be honest with you. The man seems like a robot, does not get tired, and that is really kind of his long con. He'll just shoot at you, pepper you with a few strikes if needed. But he's always going to out cardio you. That is going to be a guarantee. So I do feel like this is honestly not the greatest matchup for Justin. Again, a lot of people said that against Tony, and big ups on him for taking that Tony fight. The fight before, earning him the interim championship. People said that he would outgas Tony, that Tony was a cardio monster as well. He proved the entire world wrong. Very likely, not very likely, but very possible that he does it again against Khabib, though I do say I feel Khabib is a completely different animal than Tony. Going to my prediction, I say Khabib submission, third round. Going back to what I'm saying, I feel like he is going to shoot and shoot and shoot at Justin's legs until he's completely gassed out, until finally earning himself some form of a submission.
So I have to ask you, obviously, emotionally, how do you think Khabib's holding up? Do you think, obviously the devastating loss of his father, do you think that's going to affect the way he fights at all? Or if anything, do you think that's going to,
That's a very good question. I would say if this was on the 253 card, like it initially was planned on being, I would say this might have a bigger impact.
Okay.
Now, does a month heal these emotional wounds? Absolutely not. But I do feel like you do give yourself that extra 30 45 days to kind of mentally calibrate as a professional. Though, do I know that for a fact? Absolutely not. I've never personally gone through that. You can't really measure something like that. They were very close as a father and son, as a master and pupil. Their relationship was very different layers. So they very well could play a role in Friday night's fight, or Saturday's fight, excuse me.
And then finally, I want to ask your take. If Khabib wins the fight, right? Where does he go from there? And then vice versa, if Gaethje wins the fight, who would be next in line for Justin?
If I'll start with Justin, just because
Okay.
that is going to be a little bit murkier. I don't think Dana's prepared for that. Let alone me to give you a guess. If that were to happen, the entire division will be shook.
Yeah.
There, you could go in 3 different ways, 4 different ways if you wanted to. If he does win, though, I don't honestly feel like anyone's going to give him another issue until Khabib potentially tries to, get a rematch or something like that. On Khabib's end, I'm glad you asked this, because on Khabib's end, he seems like he's already maybe not looking past Gaethje, but preparing for his win, because he's already kind of eyeballing George St. Pierre.
Mm-hmm.
And I know his couple of dreams, him and his father, is to go 30-0, and he wants to fight GSP. So the ultimate mashup for that would be for his 30-0 fight to be against George St. Pierre. Will that happen? Who knows? Would Dana like that to happen? I would assume so, because you would get the casual, you would get the diehard, you would get anyone who cares about the sport to tune in.
Yeah, that would be absolutely insane. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, I will link him down below. Please make sure you guys do check him out. Make sure you do tune in to UFC 254 this weekend. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, just looking very much forward to it.
Guys, make sure you do drop a like. Make sure you guys do drop a subscription. Until next time, talk to you guys soon. Peace.